financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. Jenny Lingle, it's nice to have you back.
Good morning, Ken.
Pat Simasko from Simasko Law, our elder law expert. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
And then we have Brian Small. Nice to see you, Brian.
Good morning, Ken.
the big
it's a pleasure.
Today's segment, we're going to talk about a case study. John and Lori, they are suffering with tax debt, credit card debt, and medical bills. I'm going to lay out the problem, and then together we're going to figure out what's the solution for John and Lori. Here's the problem. $70,000 of credit card debt. $120,000 of tax debt from 2010, 2011, and 2012. $25,000 of medical bills. I'm not going to overly complicate this with a whole bunch of other stuff. These are three core problems that we commonly see couples like John and Lori to have. Now, here are their basic assets and family situation.
And any one of those problems, though, is enough to have to deal with.
And it's certainly enough to
However,
have an awful lot of stress as a result.
It happens to be that it just happens that the combination is like they stir it all up and boom, credit card debt, tax problems, and medical bills seem to be
They always come together.
Yeah, they come together.
Well, medical
storm.
bills we can't get away from.
Like the Brady Bunch.
Okay.
They're always together.
If you go to the doctor now, you end up with, and you have insurance that's on your own with high deductibles, you end up with medical bills. And if you have a significant health issue, even though you have the benefit of insurance, you end up with big 3 years of deductibles can become $25,000. That's the world we're living in now. All right, they're making $5,000 a month, so they've got a modest income, but they could get by if they didn't have all this debt. They have two children. They have a home worth $150,000. The first mortgage is $160,000, so the house is underwater. They also have a second mortgage of $25,000. They have a car with a lease payment of $325 a month. Their other car is a 2005 Grand Cherokee that they own outright, worth maybe about $4,000. They've got $5,000 of cash in the bank, and all of their tax returns for those years that they have the $120,000 of tax debt were filed on April 15th of each year. Those are the facts. The question is, what is the best play of getting rid of this debt? And these are the things that people think about and hear about if they're watching on TV or listening to the radio. They'll have one guy say, file bankruptcy, it's the good solution. You'll have another guy saying, I'm the tax guru, I can settle your tax debt for pennies on the dollar. You'll have another guy saying, you don't want to file bankruptcy, you can avoid that and use debt settlement to take care of the credit card debt.
Do they
He
say
does that good,
Do they say
doesn't
it
he?
just like that, too?
That's my version of those commercials.
Can I ask one quick question? So the families, they file the tax return each year, even though they didn't pay the taxes. Is it better to file the tax return if you don't have the money, or better to put your head in the sand and or not totally ignore it?
It's better to file the tax return. There's quite a few reasons for it.
Way
Number one, you're legally you can face criminal charges if you don't file your tax returns. Two, if you don't file timely, you're subject to a 25% penalty. So just because you can't pay doesn't mean that you can't file the return. So you want to file the return so that you don't incur that additional 25%. And the third reason is if you would like to possibly plan for a bankruptcy in the future, you have to have that return filed and you have to meet some rules.
And you'll see that in this circumstance, because we're going to change the facts after this where the return wasn't filed. But the simple one is this, 25%. People that don't file their return timely increase their tax liability automatically by 25% for no reason.
Wow.
If you don't have the money to pay, you're going to get penalized at 0.5% per month up to 25%, but that's 6.5 years. So and that's separate. The other 25% for not filing is 5% a year, starting with April 15th if you haven't filed an extension. It's a waste of money and a terrible thing not to file your return on time. And it only happens because people like to bury their head in the sand thinking, if I don't file, they won't know about me.
There's that voice.
It doesn't
They're
work.
going to have that voice in their head for the rest of their April 15th.
For
they're
that,
going to hear that.
I apologize to all of you. Okay. So, Brian, what is your take on this? Jenny, is this a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, or is this a case of settling the tax debt using an offer in compromise?
Well, here's what happens. The client comes in and sits down with me with this set of facts. We're going to actually explore all of the different solutions. So and when we look at it, of course, we're looking for the simplest, most effective method to get the client out of debt that's the least costly and most efficient. And so we're going to end up in a Chapter 7. Okay, but here's the reason why you wouldn't do an offer in compromise in this situation. The taxes were timely filed. They've reached the point where they are dischargeable in bankruptcy. They've met the 3-year, 2-year, 240-day rule. In order for a tax to be dischargeable in bankruptcy, it had to have come due at least 3 years earlier. It had to have been filed for at least 2 years, and you couldn't have been assessed in the last 240 days. In this situation, this client...
Because their last year was 2012, they filed April 15th, 2013, 3 years ran up April 15th, 16, so they're good.
Yeah. So that tax debt is dischargeable. The credit card bills are dischargeable. And if we did debt resolution, we could settle the credit cards, and the medical bills, but that would still leave us with the tax debt. So now
to settle it, you'd still have to pay 40% of the debt in the settlement, correct?
Right, which would cost, well, between the medical bills and the credit cards, about $40,000. Why spend $40,000 when for $1,500 to $2,000 they could wipe it out like that with
All
the
the
Chapter
tax-
7.
all the tax
all the
debt.
taxes, all the credit cards, all the medical bills, keep the house, keep the car, and get a fresh start.
There's nothing that stops them from being eligible for a Chapter 7 on these facts?
With this set of facts, no.
There's no equity in their home.
Correct.
If they had $100,000 of equity, would that be a problem?
It could be a problem. It depends on the exemptions, but that are available. But the reality is
Let's
it might
take
be
a
a
break.
problem.
When we come back, Jenny's going to talk about the tax issue.
It's devastating. The effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now. We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Fav Gross 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Fav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Fav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Fav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross, our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Fav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back. All right, so Brian, you have me convinced from the standpoint that Chapter 7 is going to work, but Jenny, I've got a question for you. You hear on TV all the time, I can settle your tax debt for pennies on the dollar with this offer and compromise program. How does that work, and why is that not the right thing to do in this case?
Well, the first thing when someone comes into me with credit card debt, tax debt, and medical bills, the first thing that we're going to look at is a Chapter 7 before I'm going to analyze an offer and compromise. The reason is, if I can find one tool that solves all of the problems, that's typically economically the right way to go.
So like Brian says, in this case, that would work.
That would work.
But if it was an offer and compromise, how does that work?
They would qualify for an offer and compromise here. The only issue is they have $5,000 in their bank account, and the IRS only allows you to keep $1,000. However, with their
So you just charge them $4,000 for the fee, and that takes care of it, or is it not that expensive?
no, it certainly wouldn't be that expensive in their case.
That's a big point, and I'm saying it in jest, but let me tell you right now, if you call up one of these 1-800 tax companies and they're going to sell you an offer and compromise whether bankruptcy is the smarter move or not, and they're going to charge you $6,000 to $7,000 for it, and it shouldn't be more than what usually?
I would say in this case not more than $2,500 because
For
they have
an
a pretty simple case.
And in this case, we wouldn't even do it. We
No.
would instead be over to Brian for a bankruptcy, which is probably around $1,500.
$1,500 plus
to
a filing
$2,000.
fee comes to about
Okay.
$2,000.
And that gets rid of all the debt. But what's the problem on the offer and
Well,
compromise?
the problem, besides the fact that the cash they have in their vehicle is a little bit over what they would allow, is that the IRS requires, if they accept an offer and you pay the offer, that for the next 5 years you timely file your returns and that you don't owe again. And that seems to be something that kicks back a lot of offer and compromises, because once you've had financial problems, there is a chance that sometime during the next 5 years you're going to owe $1,000 and you can't pay it right on April 15th.
I use two terms for that. I call that the stay clean rule, which says if you get an offer and compromise, you then have to stay clean with the IRS for 5 years, which means every year you have to pay your taxes timely. And then the other term I use is sometimes the repeat offender term, which says if you have a tendency to be behind in taxes, it's not uncommon for that problem to reoccur. Now, let me explain why it happens. It doesn't typically happen to the guy who's working and getting a W-2 and having tax withheld. It happens to the self-employed individuals who have to pay in estimates. And I understand the problem. We've been seeing it for years. Any business person who's self-employed understands that their life is dependent on cash flow. And sometimes cash flow dips, and when cash flow dips, you still got to pay your help, you still got to put food on the table for your children, you still got to pay tuition, you have to pay everything that's coming at you, and sometimes the tax debt, when you're self-employed and you have to voluntarily send in estimates, sometimes that doesn't happen. That's the reality of life, and in that situation, if that's your situation going forward and you're still self-employed, even though the offer and compromise is a great program when you can't get rid of the tax through a bankruptcy and discharge it, it still has a shortcoming. And the thing that annoys me is people get lulled into these offer and compromises by these big tax companies, and they never even tell you about the stay clean rule. And when you don't stay clean and you call up and say, you never told me about that, they go, oh, yes, we did. It was on page 32 of our retainer agreement.
Actually, they don't answer the phone when you call them back to ask them
guys,
questions.
Even worse.
Let me throw it for the people at home listening. I think that's why it's so important to come to a firm like you, because you have a fiduciary obligation to make sure the plan that you're providing to them is the best plan for them. You don't have a chip in the game in the sense of, if you're an offer and compromise firm, they're going to figure out any way under the sun to make sure that fits them.
Well,
if you're only a bankruptcy guy, you're only going to do bankruptcy. On the financial side, if you're a stockbroker, you're going to sell them a stock because that's how you make a living. You have no fiduciary obligation. Here with you guys, that's what you do, is what's best for them.
And not only that, we're going to be here for another. We've been here for
Yeah.
32 years, and we want to be here for another 32 years.
Yeah.
Screw a client once, that's the end of the
That's
game.
exactly
Well,
in my
I don't
mind.
even
It
wanna-
should be the end of the game.
I don't even want to take it that far. The problem is if you're just a bankruptcy attorney or you're just doing debt settlement or you just do offer and compromise, the person that's selling you that product may not even know there's other options.
That's
So
the
there's
thing.
not always ill intent,
That's going
but they
from
don't
a-
know.
Some of the tax relief people call you up and ask for advice at times when
Oh
when
my
there's a
God,
more
yeah.
complicated case.
Let me
Do
throw it
any
in-
of them know that the taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy?
No.
Let me throw it in an example everyone really understands is you have the best family doctor in the world and you've been going to him for 40 years. If you got cancer, you're going to the cancer specialist. And that's what you guys are. You're the cancer
and if you have a heart problem, you want to
You're
go
going
to
to the heart.
Cleveland, or you want to go to the cardiologist who knows what
you
he's
don't
doing.
you don't go to the head guy for a
I
proctologist.
want to change the facts, though, and I want to show all of our viewers how by changing the facts, you still end up in the same result. Let's assume there's the same amount of tax debt, but there is no credit card debt, and there are no medical bills. Jenny, why wouldn't we do an offer and compromise there? It's just tax debt.
I would say for the majority of people, I would still recommend the Chapter 7 because you don't have that 5-year stay clean. Now, there are some individuals, security brokers and that, who have licenses to protect that don't want a bankruptcy on their record. That might be the only case where we would file
so you
an
evaluate
offer.
the facts. That's a good
But the
point.
bottom line is that the Chapter 7 still, in this
Absolutely.
type of situation, becomes the most effective tool to get rid of the debt, whether it's just taxes or it's taxes, medical bills, and credit cards. I don't want everybody to think you have to have all three to necessarily be the candidate for the bankruptcy. The Chapter 7 might just be for credit card debt because there is no tax debt. The bottom line is you've got to look at the situation and explore all of your opportunities, and that's what they are, opportunities to get rid of debt and get a fresh start.
Yeah, just right in with what you're saying and what Jenny's saying is that bankruptcy still works, but at the same token, you have to evaluate the facts. If that particular person would be better off career-wise by getting rid of the debt, taking the risk on the 5-year stay clean rule, but not having the bankruptcy, then you go that way. It's a question of figuring out what the best move is. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I wanted to ask Brian, what do we do about this second mortgage? We'll be back.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
A lifetime of hard work. If you're approaching retirement and don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your investments, and your savings. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Putting a solid strategy in place with Samasco Law legally protects your assets as well as your wishes. Since a will doesn't cover you medically or financially, Samasco Law goes beyond ordinary asset management protection to safeguard everything you have.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
It's devastating. The effects of debt and foreclosure on you and your family. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem. Some fear the word bankruptcy, but in reality, it's a strategy to save your home and to eliminate debt. If you're in financial trouble, timing is critical. You need to take action now. We've been saving homes and eliminating debt for over 33 years.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Time for announcements. Want to remind our viewers to listen to us Tuesdays noon to 1 p.m., 6 to 7 p.m., Law and Reality Live on WCHB 1200 AM 99.9 FM. Thursdays from 3 to 4, Law and Reality Now with Cliff Russell on 910 a.m. We have a seminar coming up Wednesday, November 9th, 6:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. It's not a trick, it's a treat to get out of debt. It's one of my favorite names for a seminar. That seminar is going to focus on all the systems that we use to preserve future income for you and your family. It's more than just getting rid of debt. It's repositioning your life so that you start saving money on a month-to-month basis rather than just letting it go out the window to the banks and payment of interest every month, leaving you a future without any retirement. Sign up at lawandreality.com or thavgross.com, or you can call 888-235-HELP. On Wednesday, December 7th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m., Pat Samasco is going to join us for a seminar, The Legal Side to Nursing Home Care for Mom and Dad. Pat's going to walk us through all the elements of Medicaid planning as well as VA aid and attendance benefits, so that if you have a loved one facing the ultimate possibility of going into a nursing home care is $9,000 to $12,000 a month. It will take everything you've ever earned away from you because the average stay is 32 months. Pat is the guru on how to operate within the confines of the Medicaid planning laws so that you can save your assets and still get the benefit of the same nursing home care. It's a great seminar, 6 to 7:30 p.m. All of our seminars are free. You attend, sign up at lawandreality.com or thavgross.com or call 888-235-HELP. Want to remind our viewers that we always offer free consultations on any issue. You can go to both websites, thavgross or lawandreality.com, and request a consult, or you can always call the offices at 888-235-HELP. Also, take a look at the websites. We've got free reports. A free report by Pat Simasko on Social Security. I have a report there on how to use Reg X to save your home and avoid foreclosure. And we also have a planning report on starting a new business, things that you need to know, as well as sources of financing. We'll be back after the break.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Simasko Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Simasko Law today.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP. If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
All right, welcome back. All right, we've analyzed John and Lori's situation with respect to everything but one thing. They still have the second mortgage. The house was worth $150. The first mortgage, I think, was $160. They got the second mortgage at $25,000. Is there anything we can do to get rid of that?
Well, there's two options to get rid of that.
First of all, by filing the Chapter 7, it doesn't get rid of the second mortgage.
No, it
correct?
doesn't. It does not lien strip the second mortgage.
Does it get rid of their obligation to pay?
It eliminates and discharges their personal obligation to pay. So if they decided to walk away from the house 2 months from now, or 2 years from now, or 10 years from now, as long as there's still a mortgage owing on that property, they actually don't have a legal obligation to pay it.
The first mortgage or the second mortgage.
Right. If they choose not to pay it, the lender can foreclose
and lose the house
and take back the house. But if they choose to pay it, they can keep the house.
All right, so 15 years from now, the house is worth $180,000. The first mortgage is paid down to $140,000. There would be $40,000 of equity there, but now we got this second mortgage in there. Is there something we can do now to get rid of that second mortgage?
Well, there's two choices. Originally, they only qualified for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Change the facts a little bit. Maybe they get a little bit more income. Maybe they don't get a little more income, but the bottom line is a Chapter 13 can be filed after a Chapter 7 has been completed. And you don't
you sometimes call that a Chapter 20?
I do call that a Chapter 20. And because 7 plus 13 equals 20.
Did you figure that out yourself?
Indeed, I'm the only one in the entire history of bankruptcy law that ever figured that out by themselves.
That 7 and 13
Equals 20.
and so does 13 plus 7.
So they say.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, you can eliminate a second mortgage. You can lien strip it. In this case, let's just say for simple facts that the second mortgage payment's $250 a month. And after we do their budget, all they have left to pay the $250 a month is $200 a month. So there's still $50 upside down in their budget at the end of the day after their Chapter 7.
So what's the end result? Because I want to shift
I can
back
take
for
the
a second.
$200 a month and pay that in a Chapter 13 for 36 months.
So that's $2,400 times 3, $7,500 or so, and they're done with the second mortgage?
And the second mortgage is gone.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, now, switching facts, because we got 2 minutes left. Same facts for John and Lori, but like many couples, they didn't file their tax returns themselves. They ignored it. They did what Pat had said at the beginning. They buried their head in the sand, and the IRS filed the returns for them, called substitute returns.
So I would file still a Chapter 7 for them to eliminate those debts that could be eliminated.
credit cards.
And the hospital bills, and eliminate their personal
But
responsibility to pay the
wouldn't
underlying
be- The
mortgages.
7 would not be eligible.
The 7 does not eliminate the tax debt.
So then we go back to Jenny. At that point, what do? You do
At that point, we would file the offer in compromise. I agree with Brian, as we would probably file the Chapter 7 first, because that's typically over quicker than an offer in compromise. And the IRS doesn't allow credit card payments in the calculation or medical bills if you're not making the payment, so it doesn't hurt them to get rid of those debts first in the Chapter 7 and then file the offer in compromise.
Then you do the offer in compromise, and then do we go back to you and
We
do
could do a Chapter
and get rid of
13
the
at
second
that point
mortgage?
if there's still no equity attaching to the second mortgage. So the combination of the tools of financial crisis management here, that's a beautiful thing. Get rid of the credit card debt, have a plan to get rid of the tax debt, and then get rid of the second mortgage. It's a symphony.
Here's the last question, though. Now you get it all done, it's all perfect, they're all doing great. Then is their job to go out and get a bunch more credit cards and get that second mortgage again and rack up a bunch more debt?
Well, only if they want to be a client again.
Yeah, it's better to.
Hopefully not. What you want to do is you want to reposition your life so that instead of sending $500 to $700 a month to the credit card companies
Or more.
you start paying cash for the things that you buy. You save at least half of that money in the bank every month, so that when you get to 75, you have 3 things accomplished. You own your house free and clear, you have some money in the bank, and you have 0 debt. That's my simple
the key.
3-point retirement plan. That means you may not be traveling the world, but you live comfortably and you have enough money to
You got
spend
food on the table.
and pay for some gifts for your grandchildren. And you don't have to worry about becoming a ward of the state or a ward of your children. That's a wrap. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality. Thanks for watching.